Hi everybody, it's Az here from Heel vs Babyface, and I'm bringing you this video today to show you the entry-level dungeon for the upcoming World of Warcraft expansion, Mists of Pandaria. Now, this dungeon is called the Temple of the Jade Serpent, and it resides within the Jade Temple grounds, which I showed you on a little flyover video I did a few days ago. Now, I've put the video a little sped up because none of the trash drop any loot, so there's no real point to show you the encounters there. Now, on the way to the first boss, we're going to be fighting some water elementals. The normal rules of any encounter within the World of Warcraft apply. If something drops on the floor that isn't from a teammate or raid member, the likelihood is it's not good for you, so don't stand in it. And that includes fire, that includes water, that includes poison. In this case, it is water. That's what they drop. Now, if you do stand in it, it gives you a debuff and it ticks for about 10,000, which isn't dramatic, but if you stand in it, that tick will go very quickly and you will drop before you know it. I have been in unfortunate situations where the tank has thought he can just stand and tank in it, and they've dropped. Now, the first encounter we're going to come to, the boss encounter at least, is Wise Mari. Now, Wise Mari is so wise, he will actually bug halfway through this fight. Beta. Wonderful, wonderful beaters, but that's what we're here to test. Now, what Wise Mari does as regards to strategy is he will fire a globule of water into one of the 4 altars that surround him. It will spawn one of those water elementals, you will burn it down, and that water elemental will then spawn 3 oozes, which you will then burn down as well. Now, Wise Mari will not wait for you to destroy the ads before he fires some new ones out. It is time specific, so if your DPS is low and weak, there is a chance that Wise Mari will throw some more ads at you. Now, luckily, we've got some decent DPS here, so they're burnt down in no time. And remember, this is an entry-level dungeon, so it's not trying to outfox you too much. Here we go. We've managed to burn down all the ads, and Wise Mari has done a vanishing trick. Very wise, very wise. Now we know why he's called that. So we have to start the encounters again. Never mind, I will speed up the trash this time to make it go a lot quicker, and then I'll play the actual second phase of the boss encounter in real time. Now, as you may have seen from that brief look at Wise Mari before he debugged, he had a conal attack, which is very similar to the spout that's used by the lurker in Serpentine Cavern, and very much like that, if you get hit by it, it will knock you back and hit you for significant damage. Now, as much as I'd love to say I haven't been hit by it before, I have been too busy concentrating on other things, and I have been hit for it, not in this encounter, and it does hit me for approximately 100,000 health. So you've got to be very careful not to get hit, because once you get knocked back, it can be very difficult then to start avoiding that cone. You have to be as close to the boss as possible so you can dodge just back and forth away from that wave. He will not perform in this level any other move apart from this cone. So it's all about moving, fighting, moving, which again is one of these annoying fights for a spellcaster that has to stop and cast while melees just run around going bang, 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 bang. Never mind, I'm sure it will even itself out as raids go on, and it's not particularly difficult. Now, because of the way that the fight starts with the 4 ads coming one by one, when this goes to heroic mode at level 90, it could be very interesting with the amount of HPs that will be added to see if those ads will prove to be rather difficult, and whether or not it does become a DPS race to get them down before the next lot spawns. So Wise Mari is just about to drop. I am banging out a couple of soul fires which are hitting him quite hard and exploding on him. All the loot that drops from the bosses is blue and 410. There are no epics involved in these dungeons, and if you want to have a significant look at the loot, just pause the video and then you can drool over some of the stats. I will show up like that for a couple of seconds before moving on. There we go. Now, if you do crush those items as an enchanter like myself, it's currently giving you the ads from the mats from Cataclysm, and not the new mats, whatever. Now then, we're moving on into the library, and the library is a very nice looking place, but it's full of corrupt creatures. There are corrupt herons, there are corrupt fish, there are corrupt tigers, there are corrupt beetles. Goodness knows, but this library is one freaky library. Now, this next boss we're going to come up to is called the Library Event, and the reason for that is it can actually spawn one of two different fights. Now, I've probably done this dungeon about 12 times in the beta so far, and 10 of those times I've had the encounter which I'm going to show you today, and only twice have I had the other encounter. So I'm not sure if it's just random or whether or not the secondary encounter is more difficult. What I do know is the encounter we're going to get today, the boss doesn't drop any loot, but the other encounter does. So there might be a wee bit of a bug there. Now, this encounter has a specific tactic, as regular bosses, which our tank just completely ignores. And makes this fight quite boring to watch, so I do apologise. The two ads here are called Strife and Anger, and what you need to do is you need to target one and singularly DPS that one target till it gets to 8 stacks of debuff. You'll start to see there are stacks forming underneath. When it gets to 8, you need to switch to the next ad and single target DPS that. Now, the reason for that is if the mob gets to 10 stacks of debuff, he will become immune and hit like a truck. Now, as you can probably see, the one that we're attacking is getting bigger and stronger, and the other one, which we weren't attacking, is getting smaller and weaker. This is because it's ciphering off the power from the second ad. So if you switch at 8 and start hitting the other mob, it balances out the damage and the tanks don't get one shot, which I have seen on numerous occasions. However, we have a pretty powerful tank and we have a pretty good healer, so what they're doing is they're just getting the boss to 10 stacks of debuff, letting it go immune, and they're just waiting for the immunity to drop off because it's a time sensitive immunity before picking up the DPS again. So a little bit lazy by the party here, and maybe Blizzard can look at something like that and tweak it so that tactic can't be implemented and you are forced to jump between one boss and the other. Of course, when that mob now dies and we start to focus on the second boss, when it gets up to 10 stacks of debuff, it just goes immune and there's nothing we can do, so we just have to stand around, twiddle our thumbs, wait for it to come off. You could sing a song, but you really, really wouldn't like that. Anyway, all I know is I blow a perfectly good soulfire coming up now on an immunity bubble. That will teach me for looking at my frame rate when I'm recording. Never mind. Like I said before, this boss unfortunately is not dropping any loot at the moment, so when we do eventually kill it any second now, we just have to move on, but it doesn't stop people from waiting to see. I like the fact that Blizzard has brought in some different looking creatures. It is well known that Blizzard does like its reskins, just changing the textures and the colourings on a lot of different mobs. Now, although this is technically a reskin, it's quite a funky looking one and completely different from anything we've seen in the game so far. And what Blizzard have said is, instead of just falling into that reskin trap which they have in the past, they're now looking to add pieces of armour and stuff like that onto the same character models to make them look different. Now, we're coming up to the third boss out of 4 in this nice little plaza area. The trash again is nothing special, it's just one big mob with some smaller mobs, with some pandas making some weird noises, and then you just batter through. Now, when we get to this boss, this is the most interesting out of the lot. When I say interesting, it's probably got the most mechanics. It's not particularly difficult, but it has the most mechanics for everybody to pay attention. Now, when you start, this fallen monk, is called Lean Flameheart, I believe, will start battering the tank, and she does hit very, very hard indeed. Now, during the encounter, she will randomly spawn, there we go, some waves. Now, you'll get the fire wave, and you'll get a watery type of poison wave, which she'll do later on. As ever, avoid. There you go. And position myself quite nicely to avoid them. Don't get hit by them. They don't do massive amounts of damage, but they do drain the healer's mana, and there's no necessity to do this. Very keen for us to leave this place, isn't she? Blimey, here we go. Now, when the second lot of waves come and we get the water waves, it leaves a debuff on the floor. Typical rules of Blizz apply. Don't stand in it. That is very, very nasty poison. And as opposed to the water from the trash, which ticked for around 10k, if you stand in that, it ticks for around 25k. So very nasty indeed. Now, we've managed to burn it down to phase 2, and phase 2 is where it turns into this lovely little azure Jade translucent dragon, and it will start firing globules of poison onto the floor. So you just see me moving, you just saw it tick for about 25 odd k. So just keep moving, make sure if you get hit by that, just move out of it to avoid any unnecessary death, and this boss will go down pretty quick. But a relatively fun encounter that you at least have to think at all times what's going on. There you go, there's some gun loot. Now, this leaves us to the very final boss. Now, if ever there was a sad-looking panda, that, ladies and gentlemen, is a sad-looking panda. Ay, ay, ay. Oh, tell you what. Bet it's had its Weetabix. Anyway, this encounter I've had to speed up due to the fact it took us a ridiculous amount of time to kill, and it really shouldn't. As I said, I've probably done this encounter about a dozen times now, and normally it doesn't go into more than 2 transitional phases, but this encounter, we get it to 4. Hey, I don't know what was going up, but the hunter was a little bit weird in this fight, but never mind. What you do to start with is you just burn the boss down. It will hit quite hard for the tank, and when it gets to a certain amount of time gone or HP gone, I'm not too sure which, you will spawn a doppelganger on you. You will all spawn yourself. When that happens, you should all group up, stack on each other, and AoE your respective doppelgangers down, and they hit very, very hard. So if you are left alone, and this is where I say the hunter was a little bit weird, he got himself quite stranded. As you see, he got himself stranded there, gets himself stranded later on, and actually gets himself killed. But if you all stack up on each other, you can burn them down with relative ease. It also enables the healer to heal you quite easily as well. Bit of a bug on the Doom Guard there, or Terror Guard I should say, the new Terror Guard. Once it's actually attacked a mob and gone off attacking that mob, it doesn't like attacking anything else. It just thinks its job's done. Anyway, I think this is the 3rd or the 4th transition. I was losing the will to live about now, thinking, why is this taking so long? There you go, the hunter's over there on its own and is going to die. Anyway, we're now getting to a situation. No, he's not dying. It's the next time he dies. Bless his heart. Now, we're going to push it into another debuff. So it's rinse and repeat. The boss will also put a debuff on a random party member, and this will tick for a vicious amount. This will tick for about 25k or more. Now, if the healer does not get rid of that debuff, it will tear you apart. And as far as I'm aware, it doesn't matter who you are, it will do it to the tank as well. So the healer has to be on his metal at all times. At last, we've managed to knock it down. It's dropping a couple of bits of loot. Hope you enjoyed this little run through the Temple of the Jade Serpent. Please like the video. Please subscribe to the channel. Leave some comments. Anything else you'd like to see me do, drop me a line. This has been Az from Heel vs Babyface. Take care.